Hey there guys, it's Bill Straw back with ModernThirst.com. We've got an interesting one for you today. This is called 8 and Sand. If you haven't heard of this, don't feel bad about it because I hadn't heard about it either until this showed up on my doorstep. 8 and Sand is the newest offering from MGP. I'm sure most of you are aware MGP, big distillery up in Indiana, formerly Seagram's. They make tons and tons of really good bourbon and rye and other products for all sorts of different labels, including some of their own. This is one of their own. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that it's not just a bourbon and it's not a rye, it's a blended bourbon whiskey. Blended bourbon, most bourbon enthusiasts don't really reach for it very often. There's a reason for that. Any blended whiskey is a mixture of different whiskeys that come together. Blended bourbon has to be at least 51% bourbon, but you can use neutral spirits and other flavorings and things in those as well because it's not a straight whiskey. In this case, MGP has blended together bourbons and whiskeys with no additional coloring or flavors, no neutral grain spirits, nothing along those lines. So it's really just a blend of different whiskeys. It's 88 proof, 44% alcohol, and the retail price on this is only $29.99. Really, I'm not really sure who they really target this towards, but I've had a bit of it to taste, as you can tell here, and it's an interesting animal. So I'm going to walk through a tasting for you here today and just kind of talk a little bit about it. It's actually not a very bright colored whiskey. So everything in here is at least 4 years old according to MGP's literature. So it's not a young whiskey. It's not a particularly old whiskey. It's right at that 4 years old. But it actually looks like it has some pretty good kind of brown amber colors in there. And it also doesn't look heavily filtered. So that was kind of interesting to me. I expected this to be more of a bottom shelf, kind of straw-colored yellow liquid, but it's not. And on the nose, it is a completely different animal. When you smell it, you initially get that hint of citrus and rye that you get with a lot of MGP products, but it very quickly turns very sweet, almost a simple syrup, maybe a hint of caramel. It's different, and there's, as one of my writers, Timothy Van Riper, mentioned last week, there's almost a note of juicy fruit in it, which I kind of agree. Now that he said that, I can't really get away from it the more I smell this. So we'll give it a taste. And while it's really interesting. You get that rye and cinnamon right on the tip of the tongue. You get a little bit of oak on the mid palate, and past that, it just kind of explodes into all sorts of different directions. It's a little bit scattered. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the most focused of whiskeys. But there is a bright red sweet fruit, almost like drinking Hawaiian punch on the back of the palate. And the more you drink this, the more you sip it, the more prominent that becomes. I think it's really funny. It's really interesting. Not really sure where it comes from because I don't know the exact makeup of this. But it does make this a very unique sip. And interestingly enough, the more you drink this, the more you want to drink it. It's actually pretty tasty. I think it would be okay in cocktails. Again, 88 proof, it's not going to be the strongest flavor out there if you start mixing it with anything significant. But as a sipper, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm really kind of glad they sent me this bottle. I would never, ever, ever have picked this up on my own. I'm glad to have it now, and I might eventually buy another one because it's really tasty. One thing that I think this will go real well in is a Kentucky Mule. So basically a Moscow Mule with ginger beer, a splash of lime juice, and this I think is going to go really well, and I'll probably try that out this week. But all in all, I recommend this. It's $29.99, so it is not expensive. At least in this area, it doesn't seem that hard to find. I've seen it on a couple of store shelves so far. And it is, don't buy this if you're expecting a very traditional over-the-top bourbon. It's not that. It's also not a rye. It's also not flavorless. It kind of stakes out its own little path there. And it works. It just works. I think the folks at MGP are, not only do they make a really good product, they're very good distillers, but they're becoming very good blenders. If you've tried the Remus Reserve, Repeal Reserve bottles, they're excellent. And this is something that probably, if I had to guess, it took a lot of time in a lab to come up with this blend, and it works really well. It's tasty, it's interesting, it's unique, it's really affordable if you just want to try something different. If they had priced this at $60 or $70, I probably would have told you to hold off. In terms of bourbon, the closest I can come to this is probably that red fruit character on the initial releases of Old Forester 1870. This one isn't quite it's not as much corn to this and not as much barrel char. But other than that, it is a really nice little sip. Big surprise to me. Check it out if you get a chance. And if you like it, let us know. On the Modern Thirst scale, I scored this an 88. If you like our reviews, if you like what we do and you like our videos especially, please, please, please consider supporting us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ModernThirst. If you could just pledge $1 a month, that would be great. We do this on our own dime, on our own budgets. So, you know, it can get very expensive. We have to buy lots of lighting and camera equipment, and the cost of the website itself is growing every year. But we love what we do, so if you can support us, we'd appreciate it. In the meantime, please like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. If you have any comments, you can post them here. You can also go over to our website on ModernThirst.com, check out over 300 different whiskeys reviewed, and we hope to see you there soon. But thanks a lot. Cheers. Have a great day.